Thank you for joining our podcast today. Today, we've got a great guest, Mario Rivera with ID Logistics. Our topic today is flexibility and high service levels in e-commerce and fulfillment. So all things 3PL related with e-commerce, and what a great time to talk about it, Bill, as e-commerce is completely blowing up. So with that, I'm going to introduce Mario. Mario is the Vice President in Development and Innovation with ID Logistics. He has 15 years of experience in development, implementing, and operating supply chain management solutions for large-scale corporations. He's experienced across multiple functions, including engineering, program management, business development, operations, and IT, working with customers in a variety of industries. Mario is from Atlanta. He's married with 2 kids, 2 boys, 11 and 10 years old, married to his wife, Ashley. Mario is from Puerto Rico. And with that, Mario, tell us a little bit about your background. I know you went to military school, so tell us about Puerto Rico and how you ended up in Atlanta.
Sure. No, thank you for having me on, gentlemen. It's glad to be here chatting with you guys about e-commerce. I'm with ID Logistics now, but I started my career with the Home Depot after having graduated from Georgia Tech. Go Yellow Jackets! And from there, I spent many years at Ryder. So have a strong background with 3PLs and supporting customers, and from your introduction in a variety of industries. What brought me to Atlanta was really Georgia Tech. After having moved here with my family from Puerto Rico, I went to high school in South Florida, and I wanted to study industrial engineering. And Georgia Tech called my name, so I came up here, and I've stayed here since. And look forward to talking to you guys.
Yeah, and then you went back. You went to Georgia State for your MBA, correct?
I did. So I'm a product of all Georgia education. And
that's impressive.
I'm proud of it.
That's awesome. Well, again, Mario, thanks for joining us. Before we jump into the e-commerce and fulfillment side of things, tell us a little bit about what you do for fun on weekends and when you're not working.
Well, as you said earlier, I have a 10 and an 11-year-old son, so I find myself doing a lot of chauffeuring during the weekends. My kids play a lot of sports, baseball, soccer. So I enjoy taking them to their games and spending time on the sidelines. But yeah, I'm also, I love football. I love soccer. I'm a season ticket holder here for both the Atlanta Falcons and the Atlanta United. So before the COVID times, I had something to do just about every weekend. That's kind of been taken away from me, but hopefully coming back soon. I love to travel. I'm a big scuba diver. I started scuba diving when I went to high school in South Florida, and I have continued to do that over the years. It's a bit challenging here in Atlanta. Not a lot of places to go scuba diving, but it usually gives me an excuse to plan a trip around it.
That's awesome. You're a big Falcons fan. We're big Seahawks fans, and one of the worst losses that I can remember was when the Seahawks played in Atlanta in the playoffs, Russell Wilson's rookie year. We were losing, I can't remember what the score was, but half, but came storming back, took the lead. You guys got the ball back with like 40 seconds. I'm on my computer ready to book a flight to San Francisco because that's where the NFC Championship was going to be. And then Matt Ryan hit Tony Gonzalez on a big play over the middle. Yeah. You guys kicked a field goal and won that game. I don't know if you remember that game, but I do, and I can't forget about it.
I actually remember it well, but you know what? We got our payback not so many years later when we lost to the Pats after being in the lead by 24 points. So
yeah,
I know how that feels. I know how it feels. It's kind of crazy when those moments happen, and it's a testament to some of these athletes that just stay focused and can just dial it back in and get the game back. So, but you know what? I'm a big fan of Russell Wilson. I actually big fan of the Seahawks as well. I think probably in my top 3 teams, and I love that organization. I think they do a great job.
Yeah, no, we do too. We're big fans.
Unfortunately, we both share that New England pain. Probably the 2 worst, most shocking Super Bowl losses. I don't know which one's worse, where you don't give it to Russell first and goal, or sorry, you don't give it to Marshawn Lynch on 1st and goal, and then you give up that kind of a lead in the fourth quarter, like the worst two losses.
That was tough. Yeah. Let's move ahead.
Yeah. Before we get that rolling, one quick closing personal question for you, Mario. What was the first car you ever purchased with your own money?
Oh gosh. Actually, interestingly enough, it was a Cutlass Cruiser station wagon, an
Sweet.
Oldsmobile.
Did it have wood
It
paneling?
didn't have the paneling. I think it was maybe a year or two past that era. But and it's funny you asked that question because I'm not so much a car guy, and I've always felt like I would say I started more investing in stocks and bonds and different things at a very early age, and that was always something for me that I said, I don't see the value in spending a lot of money on cars and things like that. As you might as well start early, try to retire early, and try to enjoy your life. And it's not to say, hey, there's people who love their cars, and that's to each their own. But even today, where I feel like I've been fairly successful, I'm still driving. I'm driving right now a Nissan Leaf, a 2011 Nissan Leaf that is fully paid for and still makes that little beep when I reverse. And a lot of my friends make fun of me for it, but
That's awesome.
Especially these days, I don't have much of a need to drive these days. And even when I did, I was driving to an airport. So great question.
Awesome, Mario. Thanks for that. Well, let's get into ID Logistics and how you guys work in fulfillment. So first, just briefly, let's talk a little bit about the company. 340 sites in 17 countries, and you guys entered the U.S. in 2019, which was pretty late. So tell us a little bit about the background of the company and your entry into the U.S.
Yeah, so an interesting company. Before joining it, I to be honest, had not even heard of ID Logistics, and since, of course, learned a lot about it. But it's a 20-year-old company, 3PL founded in France, and then that's still our largest center of operations. I'd say 85% of our operations are focused in Europe, France, Spain, and Germany being three of the biggest locations. But it was founded by three gentlemen that came out of Geodis, out of the European 3PL, and they wanted to focus on warehousing and contract logistics and build an organization that really had innovation at its focus. And here 20 years later, you really see the fruits of that. I mean, the company probably derives 80% of our revenues from distribution and warehousing activity. And we do some transportation work, but that's really our core focus is distribution and warehousing. And if you go into most of our facilities, you'll see a lot of innovation in material handling technology, which has played out really well as the e-commerce evolution has occurred. Many of our sites were prepared to assist our customers in diversifying their distribution from just B2B into e-commerce. I would say the vast majority of our sites are multi-channel. We are servicing kind of all channels for our customers, be it B2B or B2C, and sometimes in between. In many ways, we've got, for example, customers where even in their B2B distribution, it behaves a lot like B2C because it's a lot of parcel focused, each picking intensive type operations. So a lot of where your automation and your material handling innovations, really come into play.
So with e-commerce, as you guys rolled into the US in 19, what happened with you guys in 2020? Obviously the boom of e-commerce. What happened specifically with that, and how did ID Logistics react?
Luckily, our entry into the U.S. was through an acquisition of a company whose focus was e-commerce fulfillment. And so it ended up being a good play for us here in the U.S. We made the purchase in October of 19, and really in 2020, we blew our projections, almost 250% of what we expected to ship. We were lucky in that not only were we e-commerce focused, but the primary customer that we service here in the United States are food brands and commodities that actually were quite utilized during the pandemic and the shutdown. So we were very lucky here, very lucky in, for example, in the Netherlands, in Spain, where our portfolio is heavily geared towards e-commerce as well. And then, but like other 3PLs, we had areas of pain. we have other countries where we've had, for example, in Germany, we have a fairly strong automotive presence, and of course, the auto sector didn't do too well through the pandemic. And then we have some other locations where we're servicing industrial type customers that also had a bit of pain through the pandemic. So it was a balance. I mean, overall, as a company, we had growth. We had about a 7% growth in 2020, but that was actually a slow year for us if you consider that for the previous 20 years, I mean, we'd seen double-digit growth every year. So we still managed to grow the business. And I think it definitely has given us a focus on our e-commerce solutions. And I think everybody already realized that, that was the future, right? But I think obviously it sort of put an exclamation point on it for a lot of people that if you're not already thinking about how to adjust and innovate your supply chain to accept that growth, then you're going to get caught behind.
Yeah, it's Mario. I've heard you mention the word innovate a couple times, and it's not surprising to hear that you guys have grown so much over the years because, as we all know, the companies that innovate in this space are going to be the ones that continue to win. But I would like to dive a little bit deeper. Fulfillment is a big space. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of the 3PL role within the fulfillment space?
Sure. I think the term fulfillment really is just, in general, getting orders out to customers, right? So, I mean, as a 3PL, we manage all sorts of distribution practices, and I think traditionally 3PLs were looked at as really running more B2B and traditional retail distribution. But as the space has evolved, so has the 3PL space, and what you see now, a few flavors. I mean, you see companies like Ryder, like ID Logistics, like XPO that are building their own fulfillment networks, and I think when you hear that, what they really represent is these multi-client type of operations that are not necessarily dedicated to a single customer, where they are handling more of this e-commerce fulfillment activity. You've got other companies out there like ShipBob and ShipMonk and a lot of these ships, etc., that are really more these modern outfits that are really focusing on really small client, small account type of e-commerce fulfillment. And you walk into their building and you may see 30, 40, 50 different customers under one roof. I think for us, for ID Logistics and for some of the larger 3PLs, the e-commerce fulfillment space looks a little different. You probably walk into one of our buildings and you'll see 3, 4, or 5 customers, right? So we're really more focused on medium-sized brands that need a decent amount of space, but may not need a full 200,000 square foot warehouse, but they also need a bit more specialized attention to their customer experience and the way that they present themselves and the way that they like to approach their customers. So, I mean, that's a lot of times where we get our business or the draw to a 3PL versus, say, an Amazon. Of course, Amazon's, the big giant, and with their FBA program, they've brought a lot of sellers onto their platform. And in many ways, Amazon gives you, of course, the eyes, the channel, the sales channel that's bringing a lot of the sales volume, and you can't deny that. But they also follow their own process, right? So if you're a merchant or if you're an owner of a brand and then you're selling your product through Amazon and you're fulfilling with Amazon, that box is arriving to your customer. It says Amazon. Mm-hmm. And the experience is highly controlled by them. And in many cases with high-end brands, especially in beauty, cosmetic products, etc., or even electronics, these customers are wanting to control their experience. They want their box to arrive. They want it to look like it's coming from them, and they want specialized packaging and specialized materials inside to drive that experience. And so that's where you would come to a 3PL, and we can offer fulfillment services that are more specialized and that can be our customers can dictate that process to us. We're able to follow multiple processes depending on what they're looking to achieve, but we can still be on Amazon. right? So, I mean, many of our customers, they don't want to lose the Amazon channel. They want to place their products on Amazon, but they want to do their own fulfillment.
That's a really good point, Mario. So, question for you on that. I don't think a lot of people are aware that 3PLs are doing a huge percentage of the business on the Amazon platform as opposed to the products being in the Amazon warehouse. So that brings me to a thought about the backbone of the Amazon algorithms. So, is there a preference, like if if
Mhm.
you're searching for something within Amazon to purchase? If it's in their fulfillment center, is it going to be a situation where that's gonna come up sooner than a third party? Talk to us about that.
Well, look, if you can crack the Amazon algorithm perfectly, then you could probably get rich pretty
That's
quick.
right.
Look, I think Amazon, of course, they're a private entity. They have some proprietary methods that they follow for placement in their website. But I would say, generally speaking, what really matters is being Prime certified.
Okay.
You know, especially these days, most people that are on Amazon are on Prime. And I don't know how you search, but I usually make my search and I immediately click the Prime checkbox
For sure.
and, and leave everything else out. So, I mean, I think that's the one sort of parameter that you have to be able to meet. And, third party resellers do have the ability to be Prime certified. There's some stringent regulations, in order to be Prime certified. And it's an invitation program, by the way. There isn't some magic form you can fill
Hmm.
out with very specific rules. You do need to be invited, and you can make the request to be invited, and they'll want to make sure you comply with certain things. And one of them, of course, is that your product is available within a 1 to 2 day transit of anywhere that you want to show up as Prime, right? So the more coverage that your fulfillment capability has of 1 to 2 day coverage, the more likely you will be shown as Prime within the platform. There's other rules. For example, we have to be integrated. We support several customers that are Amazon third-party resellers, where we perform the fulfillment activity, but these customers do have Prime designation. And in order for us to enable that, we have to have a certain level of integration to the Amazon systems. There are certain data requirements and transactional requirements we have to fulfill and then be able to provide the Amazon platform data for them to do the presentation to their customer as to expected delivery time and cost, etc. We have to utilize certain approved carriers that we have to have contracts with, and your obvious ones, of course, UPS, FedEx, but there are some others that form part of the network. We do have to execute shipment transactions through Amazon because they want to be in the flow of data for the tracking information, et cetera. So, anyways, these are a lot of details here, but there's certain requirements that you have to meet, and if you meet that, then you can, as a vendor, as a third party reseller, you have the capability to take advantage of the Amazon sales channel while still controlling your own fulfillment and being able to execute that fulfillment in a way that you think is better matching to the customer experience you're trying to deliver.
It's funny. You probably know, you have a probably better pulse on this than I do, but I read that 62% of all U.S. households are Prime members, which, when you think about that, is, I mean,
Crazy.
it's crazy. But what I hear from being a service provider on that platform is innovation, quick delivery, and really a continuous improvement program. So, are those kind of the key elements that you would agree with, the Prime platform, or those are the areas you need to serve?
Yeah, certainly. It's innovation can serve you well all around. I think with based on the topic of what we're talking about here, flexibility and e-commerce fulfillment. I mean, one of the key areas is having relationships with the transportation providers. Especially, I don't know if you've seen some of the news from last year, but I think last year and still this year put a significant strain on UPS and FedEx and some of the major shippers. And they've actually began calling customers and telling them that they can't have as much capacity. They're actually pulling back their capacity and leaving some of these brands basically without the ability to service their customers. And so now the regional parcel carriers out there, companies such as LaserShip or OnTrack, you may have seen some of these, delivering some of your packages. They're getting much more popular. They're gaining a lot more customer base. They offer great alternatives to the major carriers. And so that's part of it, as a 3PL in this space, that's a very important thing for us to have, is a lot of relationships to these regional carriers, because we have to have this portfolio that allows us to fulfill as many orders as we can and have alternatives to the major carriers, so that, whenever you have these disruptions, we're still able to service our customer. The more that you can prove and validate to Amazon that you are able to deliver in 1 or 2 days to the long list of zip codes in the United States, the higher the percentage of placement you will get as a prime vendor, and the more likelihood that your customer will generate sales. So that's near and dear to our heart, is having those relationships with the regional carriers.
As fulfillment kind of continues to evolve and get better, we're hearing different terms. Tell us about these pop-up centers, micro fulfillment centers. What is that, and how is that beneficial?
Sure. So, again, it's trying to get closer to the customer, trying to increase the percentage of customers you can reach within 1 or 2 days, again, because that's sort of the magic metric. And, the idea is, of course, you want to run big warehouses typically because they provide economy of scale and allow you to perform the work in a cost-effective way. But at the same time, sometimes you have certain locations that you maybe have a bit underserved. And so, does it really make sense to open a large distribution center in some of these locations, or does it make more sense to open more strategic, smaller footprints that act as micro fulfillment area locations? That's another metric that most of our customers are continuing to push and will continue to push, is they want to take orders as late as possible. They want to be able to tell their customers, one of our largest customers, I won't mention any names, but it's a large coffee brand. And that's the type of product where, you get to the end of the day and you realize, I'm out of coffee, and, you need it for tomorrow morning. And so having the ability to go to this company's website until 8 p.m. and say, I want to order, such and such coffee, and be reasonably assured I might actually have it by, midday tomorrow. It's a big deal. It enables a lot of sales, and as you guys know, so much of what we do on Amazon is on a whim. We sort of get these ideas and we expect to just go to the website, hit order, and it's going to be here tomorrow. And so the more we can enable that, the better. And that's what these micro fulfillment centers do. We use them for our own customers, but there's a whole subset of companies out there that are offering this service, where they say, I'm going to set up a micro fulfillment center in Seattle, but I'm not just doing it for one customer. I'm doing it to build the infrastructure, and then I am going to offer this infrastructure to other 3PLs. And so I may be a 3PL that has an account with a particular customer, and I run 2-3 warehouses for them, and I'm just looking for a solution to have faster deliveries in Seattle. And so I may outsource some of my fulfillment activity to this provider in Seattle that has built a multi-client micro fulfillment center there to essentially shore up the infrastructure of that city. So it's kind of coming from both directions. You've got companies that are setting these up for their own customers in a dedicated way, and then you've got companies that are really building this kind of multi-client micro fulfillment infrastructure all over the country to try to extend the capability of other providers.
Yeah, we certainly know that customer demand to get their product that they order online quicker and quicker is not going away. So, the micro fulfillment center trend certainly should continue. But Mario, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for joining us. This has been very informative on a lot of different fronts. Really appreciate you taking the time to join our podcast, and we'll look forward to staying in touch with you. And I hope all the listeners enjoyed this, as we will continue to do this moving forward.
Likewise. No, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate the time too. And, maybe we'll see a game with Atlanta and the Seahawks here next year. It'll be exciting.
That'd be
That
awesome.
would be awesome.
That'd be awesome. Thank you, Mario.
Thanks, Mario.
Take care.
Appreciate it.